Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the stars through the large windows. The ship was called Horizon's Edge, and it was one of humanity's finest vessels. Jake had been commanding ships for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like what was happening today. "Captain, you need to see this," said Lieutenant Lisa Carter from her station. Her voice was tight with worry. Lisa was young but smart, and Jake trusted her completely. She had been monitoring space around their position for the past hour. Jake walked over to her console and looked at the screen. Strange energy readings were showing up all across their sensors. The readings were massive, bigger than anything human technology had ever created. "What am I looking at, Lisa?" Jake asked. "Sir, these energy signatures are moving toward Earth. They're coming from deep space, from a direction we've never seen ships come from before." Lisa's fingers moved quickly across her controls. "Captain, these things are huge, much bigger than our largest ships." Jake felt his stomach tighten. In all his years of space travel, first contact with alien life had always been humanity's greatest dream and greatest fear. Now it seemed like that moment had finally arrived. "Send a message to Earth Command immediately," Jake ordered. "Tell them we have unknown contacts approaching human space." On Earth, Admiral Ben Hayes was having his morning coffee when the emergency alert came through. Ben was in charge of the Sol Defense Fleet, the collection of ships that protected Earth and the inner colonies. He was a tough man who had served in the military for 30 years. The message from the Horizon's Edge made him put down his coffee cup quickly. Ben called for an emergency meeting of all fleet commanders. Within an hour, every important military leader in human space was connected by video link. "People, we have a situation," Ben began. "Unknown ships are approaching our territory. They're big, and they're not responding to our standard greetings." At Luna Research Station, Dr. Amy Foster was studying the data that was coming in from all the observation posts. Amy was one of humanity's best scientists, and she specialized in studying alien life. She had always hoped that first contact would be peaceful, but the size of these ships worried her. "The energy patterns are unlike anything in our databases," Amy reported to the emergency meeting. "These ships are using technology we don't understand, and there are a lot of them." As Amy spoke, the alien ships finally appeared on visual sensors. They were beautiful and terrible at the same time. The ships looked like they were made of crystal and metal, and they were shaped like long needles with curved edges. Each ship was several miles long, much larger than anything humans had ever built. The largest ship moved ahead of the others and stopped just outside Earth's solar system. Then something happened that changed everything. The ship sent a message to Earth, and the message was in perfect English. "Humans of Earth," the voice said. It was cold and mechanical, but clearly intelligent. "I am Supreme Commander Zalthek of the Kethmaran hegemony. We have come to deliver an ultimatum to your species." Ben Hayes felt his blood run cold. An ultimatum was never good news. The alien voice continued. "The Kethmaran hegemony has ruled this galaxy for 10,000 of your years. We have brought order and peace to over 300 species. Now it is time for humanity to join this order." Amy Foster was recording every word. She noticed that the alien spoke with complete confidence, as if failure was impossible. "You have 72 of your hours to surrender completely to the hegemony," Zaltek said. "You will give us all your weapons and technology. Your people will work for us. Your expansion into space will stop immediately. You will become servants of the hegemony, like all other species we have encountered." Jake Morrison, still on his ship far from Earth, listened to the message with growing anger. Servants? Humanity had worked for hundreds of years to reach the stars. They had built colonies and research stations. They had created art and science and dreams of the future. Now these aliens wanted to take it all away. "If you refuse," the alien commander continued, "we will destroy your worlds one by one, until you submit. No species has ever successfully opposed the hegemony. We have weapons that can burn planets. We have fleets that block out the stars. Surrender now, and your people will live as our servants. Refuse, and your people will die." The message ended, and silence filled all the human communication channels. President John Blake, the leader of Earth's government, called an emergency session. Representatives from all human colonies joined the meeting by faster-than-light communication. The debate was intense but short. Amy Foster spoke for the scientists. "We need more time to study them. Maybe we can find a weakness." Ben Hayes spoke for the military. "Time is what we don't have. 72 hours isn't enough to prepare any real defense." Jake Morrison joined the meeting from his ship. "With respect to everyone here, I don't think time matters. These aliens have ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They've conquered 300 species. They think they can just show up and we'll roll over like dogs." "What are you suggesting, Captain?" President Blake asked. Jake looked straight into the camera. "I'm suggesting we tell them exactly what humanity thinks about their ultimatum. We've never bowed to anyone before, and we're not going to start now." Other voices joined in from colonies across human space, from New Mars, from the mining stations in the asteroid belt, from the research colonies around distant stars. The message was the same everywhere. Ben Hayes stood up slowly. As the leader of humanity's military, his words would carry great weight. "Mr. President, I've spent my whole life protecting human freedom. I've seen what we can accomplish when we work together. These aliens think they can threaten us into slavery." He paused and looked around the room, then at all the faces on the screens from across human space. "My recommendation is simple," Ben continued. "We tell them that humanity kneels to no one." The vote was unanimous. Within an hour, Earth broadcast its response to the Kethmoran hegemony. The message was short and clear. "This is humanity's answer to your ultimatum. We refuse. We will never surrender our freedom. If you want to fight us, then bring everything you have. We'll be ready." Zalthek received the message and felt something he had not experienced in centuries: surprise. In 10,000 years, no species had ever refused the hegemony's demand for surrender. The war was about to begin. The Kethmoran attack came exactly 72 hours after their ultimatum ended. Supreme Commander Zalthek was confident that this would be like every other conquest. A quick show of force, a few destroyed ships, and the humans would beg for mercy. He was wrong. Captain Jake Morrison was at New Geneva Colony when the alien ships appeared. New Geneva was a peaceful research colony with 2 million people. Families lived there, children played in the parks, and scientists worked on projects that would help all of humanity. "Captain, 3 Kethmoran destroyers just came out of hyperspace," Lisa Carter reported from her station. The Horizon's Edge was orbiting the colony, providing protection during the evacuation. Jake looked at the alien ships on his screen. Each one was twice the size of his vessel, with crystal hulls that seemed to glow with inner light. Their weapons were already charging. "All civilian ships, this is Captain Morrison," Jake broadcast to the evacuation fleet. "Get those people out of here now. We'll buy you time." The first Kethmoran ship fired. A beam of pure energy cut through space and hit the colony's main city. In seconds, 1 million people died. Jake felt sick, but he pushed the feeling away. He had a job to do. "Lisa, get us between those ships and the evacuation transports," Jake ordered. "All weapons fire at will." The Horizon's Edge was not a warship, but Jake's crew fought like heroes. They fired everything they had at the alien vessels, knowing they were outgunned but refusing to run. Meanwhile, far from the battle, Chief Engineer Kate Miller was working in a secret laboratory on Mars. Kate was brilliant, and she had been developing new weapons for months. She knew this day would come, and she was ready. "The Ghost Drive is online," Kate told her assistant. The Ghost Drive was Kate's greatest invention. It could make human ships phase partially out of normal space, making them very hard to hit. "Are you sure it's safe?" her assistant asked. Kate smiled grimly. "Nothing about war is safe. But this might give us a chance." The first test of the Ghost Drive came during the battle for Mars Station. Commander Rick Stone was in charge of the station's defense. He had 12 ships against 30 Kethmoran vessels. The odds were impossible, but Rick had never backed down from a fight. "This is Commander Stone to all ships," Rick broadcast. "These aliens think they can scare us by showing up with bigger guns. Let's show them what human creativity looks like." Rick's plan was crazy. Instead of fighting the alien ship to ship, he ordered his vessels to work together like a pack of wolves. 3 human ships would attack one alien vessel at the same time, then disappear before the enemy could respond. The Cathamoran had never seen anything like it. Their ships were powerful, but they fought in straight lines and formations. They expected their enemies to do the same. Rick's ships darted around like angry insects, hitting and running, never staying in one place long enough to be destroyed. "Human vessel, you are fighting without honor," the Cathamoran commander transmitted to Rick. "Honor doesn't keep my people alive," Rick replied. "But winning does." The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, 8 Cathamoran ships were destroyed, or damaged. Rick had lost 4 ships, but Mars Station was safe. For the first time in 10,000 years, a Cathamoran fleet had retreated from battle. Dr. Amy Foster was monitoring alien communications from her hidden base in the asteroid belt. What she heard amazed her. The Cathamoran commanders were confused and angry. They kept asking each other how the humans could fight so strangely. "They do not follow proper combat procedures," one alien commander complained. "Their tactics make no sense," another replied. "How can we defeat an enemy that does not fight correctly?" Amy realized something important. The Cathamoran had become so used to winning that they had forgotten how to adapt. They expected every enemy to fight the same way. Humans didn't follow their rules, and that made the aliens panic. The war spread quickly across human space. The Cathamoran brought bigger ships and more weapons, but humans kept surprising them. Captain Morrison used his damaged ship to ram an alien cruiser, destroying both vessels but saving a transport full of children. Other captains copied his tactics, turning their ships into weapons when their guns ran out of ammunition. On Earth, Admiral Ben Hayes watched the reports coming in from every front. Humans were losing ships and people, but they were also winning battles that should have been impossible. The secret was that humans never fought the way their enemies expected. "Sir, we're getting reports from across the galaxy," his aide told him. "Some of the alien slave species are starting to rebel. They've heard about our victories and they want to fight too." Ben nodded. That was good news, but he knew the real war was just beginning. The Cathamoran had hundreds of worlds and thousands of ships. They hadn't sent their main fleets yet. Kate Miller's ghost drive technology was spreading to every human ship. The new drives allowed human vessels to appear and disappear without warning. Cathamoran ships would fire at empty space while human fighters attacked from impossible angles. But the aliens were learning too. They brought in their world ships, massive vessels the size of small planets. These ships had weapons that could destroy entire fleets and armor that could stop anything humans could throw at them. The first world ship appeared at the Centauri colonies. It was so big that it blocked out the sun. Its weapons began systematically, destroying every human installation in the system. "This is Admiral Hayes to all ships in the Centauri system," Ben broadcast. "Do not engage the world ship directly. Use hit-and-run tactics. Make them work for every victory." Commander Stone, now promoted after his victory at Mars, led the defense of Centauri. His ships darted around the massive alien vessel like flies around a giant. They couldn't seriously damage it, but they could make it work hard to destroy the colonies. "Sir, the world ship is moving toward the main colony," Stone's navigator reported. "Then we make our stand there," Stone replied. "All ships form up, we're going to ram that thing." "Sir, ramming a world ship would be suicide," his weapons officer said. Stone smiled the same grim smile that was becoming common among human fighters. "Maybe, but we'll take a big chunk of it with us." The Battle of Centauri lasted 3 days. Stone's ships fought like demons, ramming alien vessels and using their ghost drives to appear inside the world ship's defenses. When the battle ended, the world ship was damaged and limping away, but the human colonies were destroyed. Dr. Foster analyzed the battle reports and made an important discovery. The world ships were not as invincible as they seemed. They had weak points, places where human ships could do real damage if they were willing to sacrifice themselves. "We can hurt them," Amy reported to Admiral Hayes, "but it costs us everything we have." Ben nodded grimly. "Then we'd better make sure it's worth the cost." News of human resistance spread across the galaxy. species that had been slaves for thousands of years began to hope. Some started sabotaging Kethmaran facilities. Others sent secret messages of support to human ships. But the Kethmaran were getting angry. They had expected this war to last days, not months. Supreme Commander Zalthek was under pressure from his superiors. He decided to send a message that would crush human spirit once and for all. The message came in the form of 3 more world ships, heading directly for Earth itself. Captain Morrison, now commanding a new ship after losing the Horizon's Edge, received the warning. Earth had maybe 2 weeks before the world ships arrived. "This is it," Jake told his crew. "They're coming for our home. Every ship, every weapon, every person who can fight needs to be ready." Kate Miller worked around the clock to upgrade the ghost drives. Dr. Foster analyzed every piece of alien technology they had captured. Admiral Hayes organized the largest human fleet in history, but everyone knew the truth. Earth's defenses were strong, but 3 world ships might be too much. The real question was not whether humanity could win, but whether they could make the aliens pay such a high price that other species would see that resistance was possible. As the Kethmoran world ships approached Earth, every human in the galaxy prepared for the fight of their lives. They had told the aliens that humanity kneels to no one. Now they had to prove it, no matter what the cost. 6 months had passed since the war began, and humanity was learning hard lessons about fighting a galactic empire. Admiral Ben Hayes stood in the command center on Luna, looking at maps that showed red zones across human space. Red meant lost, colonies, destroyed ships, dead friends. But the maps also showed something the Kethmaran hadn't expected. Green zones where human forces had won battles. Yellow zones where alien fleets had retreated after taking heavy losses. The war was not going according to the aliens' plan. "Sir, Intelligence Officer Maria Santos is requesting permission to attempt infiltration of the damaged Kethmaran vessel at Sector 7, reported Hayes's aide. Ben looked at the report. The alien ship had been crippled during a battle 3 days ago. Its crew was probably still alive, but the ship couldn't move or fight. It was a perfect opportunity to learn about their enemy. "Tell Santos she has permission," Ben said, "but make it clear that this is voluntary. What she's attempting has never been done before." Maria Santos was one of humanity's best intelligence officers. She was small, quick, and incredibly brave. She had volunteered for the most dangerous mission of the war, boarding an alien ship while it was still occupied. Maria's team used a modified ghost drive to phase their small ship partially out of normal space. They moved through the alien vessels, hull-like ghosts appearing inside the ship's corridors. The Kethmaran crew never saw them coming. What Maria found inside the alien ship changed everything. "Admiral, you need to hear this," Maria transmitted back to Luna. "These aliens are not what we thought they were." Maria had accessed the ship's central computer system. The information she found was incredible. The Kethmaran were not naturally creative or adaptive. They followed orders exactly, never changing their plans even when those plans were failing. "Their entire military operates on predetermined responses," Maria reported. "They have a plan for every situation they've encountered in 10,000 years. But if something happens that's not in their plans, they don't know what to do." This explained why human tactics were so effective. Humans fought in ways the Kethmaran had never seen before. The aliens had no plan for dealing with enemies who rammed their ships, appeared inside their formations, or used their own vessels as weapons. While Maria was making her discovery, Dr. Paul Rogers was working on something that would terrify both sides of the war. Paul was a brilliant but dangerous scientist who specialized in stellar physics. He had been studying ways to turn stars into weapons. "The Nova bomb is ready for testing," Paul reported to Admiral Hayes. "But I have to warn you, this weapon is incredibly dangerous. If something goes wrong, we could destroy our own solar system." Ben looked at the weapon specifications. The Nova bomb could destabilize a star, causing it to explode in a supernova. The explosion would destroy everything in the star system, including planets, ships, and space stations. "How do we test something like this safely?" Ben asked. "We use a dead system," Paul replied. "Somewhere with no planets, no life, nothing but an old star and empty space." The test took place in a system 50 light-years from Earth. Paul's Nova. Bomb was fired at the ancient red star from a safe distance. The weapon hit the star and began its work. Within hours, the star began to expand and brighten. Then it exploded. The supernova was visible from dozens of star systems. Both human and catamaran ships detected the explosion. The energy release was beyond anything either species had ever created. "My God," whispered Kate Miller, watching the test from her laboratory on Mars. "We've learned to kill stars." The news of the Nova bomb test spread quickly. Catamaran commanders, who had been confident of victory, suddenly began asking for reinforcements. They had conquered hundreds of species, but none of those species had possessed weapons that could destroy entire star systems. But the Catamaran response was swift and terrible. If the humans wanted to escalate the war, the aliens would show them what real escalation looked like. 3 human colonies simply disappeared overnight. The planets were still there, but every living thing on them was dead. Cities were turned to glass. Oceans were boiled away. The Catamaran had used their planet-killer weapons for the first time in centuries. Captain Jake Morrison received the news while his ship was patrolling near the Proxima system. Billions of people had died in a single night. Men, women, children, entire families wiped out because they refused to surrender. "This means war," Jake said quietly to his bridge crew. "Not the kind of war we've been fighting. Total war." Admiral Hayes felt the same way. The Catamaran had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. He ordered the largest human fleet in history to assemble for an attack on the enemy's forward command base at Proxima Centauri. "Ladies and gentlemen," Hayes announced to his fleet, "Commanders, we're going to hit them where it hurts. The Proxima base coordinates their entire offensive in this sector. If we can take it out, we can cut off their reinforcements and supplies." The plan was daring and dangerous. Kate Miller had developed a new use for the ghost drive technology. Human ships could now hide inside the corona of stars, using the intense heat and radiation to mask their presence. They would emerge from the star itself to attack the enemy base. Commander Rick Stone, now commanding a battle group, volunteered to lead the assault. His ships would phase into the Proxima star, travel through its outer layers, and emerge directly next to the Catamaran base. "Sir, the radiation will cook us alive," Stone's navigation officer warned. "Not if we move fast enough," Stone replied. "We'll be in the star for less than 10 minutes. Our shields can handle that." The attack began at dawn, Proxima time. Stone's ships disappeared into the star while other human forces created diversions around the system. The Catamaran sensors detected the human fleet but couldn't understand where Stone's ships had gone. Then, without warning, 20 human warships emerged from the star's corona like demons from hell. Their hulls were glowing from the heat, but their weapons were fully charged. They appeared directly behind the Catamaran base's main defenses. The battle lasted 4 hours. Stone's ships fought like they had nothing to lose, ramming alien vessels and using suicide attacks to destroy key installations. When the smoke cleared, the Proxima base was a burning wreck, and Catamaran forces throughout the sector were cut off from their supply lines. But the victory came at a cost. Stone's ship was destroyed in the final assault, and he died along with most of his crew. His last transmission was simple: "Tell them we made it count." Dr. Amy Foster analyzed the results of the battle from her research station. The attack on Proxima had done more than destroy a military base. It had sent a message to every enslaved species in the galaxy. "The Catamaran can be beaten," Amy reported to Earth Command. "Other species are starting to rebel across their empire. We're not fighting this war alone anymore." The rebellion spread like wildfire. Species that had been slaves for thousands of years began sabotaging Catamaran facilities, attacking supply ships, and providing intelligence to human forces. The galaxy-spanning empire that had seemed unbeatable was starting to crack. Maria Santos continued her intelligence work, infiltrating more alien ships and installations. Each mission provided new information about Catamaran weaknesses. The aliens were powerful, but they were not invincible. "They're afraid," Maria reported after her latest mission. "For the first time in 10,000 years, the Catamaran are actually afraid of their enemies. Kate Miller's ghost drive technology was becoming more advanced every day. Human ships could now appear and disappear at will, phase through solid matter, and hide in places the aliens never thought to look. Dr. Paul Rogers was working on more Nova bombs, but he was also troubled by what he had created. "We have the power to destroy stars," he told Admiral Hayes. "That makes us incredibly dangerous, even to ourselves." Ben nodded grimly. He understood the weight of the weapons they were creating. But the Kethmoran had made their choice when they started killing entire worlds. Now humanity would finish what the aliens had started. The war was entering a new phase. Humanity had proven they could fight and win against impossible odds. They had allies among the enslaved species. They had weapons that could destroy star systems. But the Kethmoran still had their homeworld, their main fleets, and billions of soldiers. The real test was yet to come. Captain Morrison, now commanding a fleet of his own, looked at the star, maps, and knew where this war was heading. Eventually, humanity would have to strike at the heart of the Kethmoran Empire. The question was not whether they would win or lose. The question was what kind of people they would become in the process. The war had been raging for 18 months when Maria Santos made the discovery that would change everything. Deep in enemy territory, she had infiltrated a Kethmoran intelligence ship and found something that made her blood run cold. The location of Kethamar Prime, the Kethmoran homeworld. "Admiral Hayes, this is Santos," she transmitted through encrypted channels. "I've found their capital planet. 3 billion Kethmoran live there. It's the command center for their entire empire." Ben Hayes stared at the star charts Maria had sent. Kethamar Prime was heavily defended, surrounded by fleets and orbital weapons platforms, but it was also the heart of everything the aliens had built over 10,000 years. "If we could hit their homeworld," Ben said to his staff, "we could end this war in one strike." Dr. Paul Rogers stood up slowly. He looked older than his years, aged by the terrible weapons he had created. "Admiral, are you talking about using Nova bombs on their homeworld?" The room fell silent. Everyone understood what Paul was asking. Using Nova weapons on Kethamar Prime would kill 3 billion aliens instantly. It would be the largest act of genocide in galactic history. "I don't know," Ben admitted. "But we need to be ready for anything." The debate that followed split humanity down the middle. Dr. Amy Foster led those who argued for mercy. "If we destroy their homeworld, we become no better than they are," she said during emergency council meetings. "We'll have saved ourselves by becoming monsters." Captain Jake Morrison disagreed. "They've killed billions of our people. They've enslaved entire species for thousands of years. Sometimes being a monster is the only way to stop a bigger monster." While humanity argued about what to do, the Kethmoran made the decision for them. Supreme Commander Zalthek was desperate. His empire was crumbling as rebellion spread across the galaxy. Human forces were striking at targets throughout Kethmoran space. For the first time in his long life, Zalthek faced the possibility of defeat. So he gave the order that would seal his species' fate. "Begin the Great Purging," Zalthek commanded his fleet commanders. "Destroy every human world. Kill every human in the galaxy. Make sure no trace of their species survives." The Great Purging began without warning. Kethmoran fleets that had been defending their own territory suddenly turned toward human space. Their orders were simple: complete extermination. Tokyo was the first to die. The planet had 8 million people, mostly scientists and their families. The Kethmoran fleet burned the entire world from orbit, turning cities to ash and boiling the oceans. Then they moved to the next target. Admiral Hayes watched the reports come in from across human space. Colony after colony was being destroyed. Entire star systems were going dark as Kethmoran fleets carried out their systematic genocide. "Sir, we're getting an emergency transmission from Earth," his communications officer reported. "Multiple Kethmoran world ships are approaching the solar system." Ben felt his heart sink. Earth, humanity's birth world, was under direct attack. The planet held 12 billion people, and there was no way to evacuate them all in time. "How long do we have?" Ben asked. 18 hours until the world ships reach Earth's outer defenses. Ben made the hardest decision of his military career. Signal all available ships, we're going to defend Earth. Captain Morrison received the call while his fleet was patrolling near the outer colonies. His ships were needed elsewhere, protecting other human worlds, but Earth was home. Every human alive could trace their ancestry back to that blue planet. All ships, set course for Earth, Jake ordered. Maximum speed. The defense of Earth brought together the largest human fleet ever assembled. Over 2,000 ships of all sizes converged on the solar system. Cargo haulers were fitted with weapons. Civilian transports were converted into fighters. Even old museum ships were pressed into service. Kate Miller worked frantically to upgrade as many ships as possible with ghost drive technology. We need every advantage we can get, she told her engineering teams. These world ships are the biggest things the Kethmoran have ever built. Dr. Foster coordinated the civilian evacuation efforts. Billions of people needed to be moved to safer star systems, but there simply weren't enough ships. We can maybe save 2 billion people, Amy reported to Admiral Hayes. The rest will have to stay and hope we can protect them. The Kethmoran world ships were massive beyond imagination. Each one was the size of Earth's moon, with weapons that could crack planets and shields that could stop entire fleets. 3 of these monsters were heading straight for humanity's homeworld. Captain Morrison's fleet arrived just as the battle began. The human ships looked like insects attacking elephants, but they fought with desperate courage. Morrison led his vessels, in close to the world ships, using their ghost drives to appear inside the enemy formations. All ships concentrate fire on the lead world ship's command section, Morrison broadcast. We need to take out their command and control. The battle raged for 12 hours. Human ships dove at the world ships like ancient kamikaze pilots, ramming their vessels into weak points in the massive hulls. Pilots died by the thousands, but they kept fighting. Jake Morrison watched his ship's systems fail one by one as enemy fire tore through his hull. His crew was dead or dying around him, but he had one last card to play. This is Captain Morrison to all ships, he transmitted. I'm making a run at the lead world ship's reactor core. Cover me. Morrison's ship, burning and barely functional, accelerated toward the world ship's heart. Enemy fire tore chunks off his vessel, but Jake held his course. At the last second, he activated his ship's ghost drive and phased directly into the world ship's reactor chamber. The explosion lit up half the solar system. The massive world ship broke apart, its reactor core destabilized by Morrison's sacrifice. Debris rained down on the other enemy vessels, damaging their shields and weapons. But Morrison was gone, and Earth was still under attack. Admiral Hayes commanded the defense from his flagship, watching as the remaining world ships closed in on Earth. The human fleet had fought heroically, but they couldn't stop vessels this massive. Sir, the evacuation ships are reporting they're full, his aide reported. 2 billion people are safely away, but 10 billion are still on Earth. Ben looked at Earth through his ship's viewports. The blue planet that had given birth to humanity was about to die, along with most of the human race. That's when Dr. Paul Rogers made his call. Admiral Hayes, this is Dr. Rogers, the scientist transmitted from his laboratory on Mars. The Nova bombs are ready, all of them. We can target every major Kethmoran world simultaneously. Ben understood immediately. If they used the Nova weapons, they could destroy the Kethmoran Empire completely. But it would mean killing trillions of aliens, wiping out entire species that had been enslaved by the Kethmoran. Dr. Foster, what's your recommendation? Ben asked. Amy's voice was heavy with grief. They're going to kill everyone on Earth. Every child, every family, everyone we've ever cared about. If we don't stop them now, humanity dies today. The decision was made in silence. Ben Hayes, the man who had spent his life protecting human freedom, gave the order that would echo through galactic history. Dr. Rogers, you are authorized to launch all Nova weapons. Target every major Kethmoran world. Across human space, hidden, weapons platforms activated. Nova bombs launched toward 17 different star systems, each one carrying enough power to destroy a sun. The weapons would take days to reach their targets, but when they arrived, the Kethmoran Empire would cease to exist. On Earth, the world ships began their final attack. Cities burned under alien weapons as 10 billion people waited for death, or salvation. In the depths of space, 17 Nova bombs flew toward their targets, carrying humanity's final answer to those who had demanded they kneel. The Kethmoran had wanted to exterminate humanity. Instead, they were about to learn what extinction really meant. The Nova bombs reached their targets 3 days after the defense of Earth ended. Across 17 star systems, ancient suns began to die. The stars expanded, brightened, and then exploded in brilliant supernovas that could be seen from hundreds of light-years away. Kethamar Prime died first. The homeworld of the Kethmoran Empire, where 3 billion aliens had lived for thousands of generations, was vaporized in seconds. The planet's cities, its art, its history, everything the Kethmoran had built over 10 millennia became cosmic dust. Dr. Amy Foster watched the destruction from her command ship, now called the New Horizons Edge, in honor of Captain Morrison. She had become the leader of humanity's remaining fleet after Admiral Hayes died defending Earth. The victory felt hollow in her hands. 17 star systems, Amy said quietly to her bridge crew. Trillions of beings. We did this. Lieutenant Lisa Carter, now promoted to commander after surviving the Earth battle, checked the sensor readings. Ma'am, we're receiving surrender transmissions from Kethmoran forces across the galaxy. Their entire command structure is gone. The war was over. Humanity had won by becoming the very thing they had once feared. They had destroyed worlds, killed entire species, and turned stars into weapons. The galaxy would remember this day forever. Ma'am, we're also getting messages from the freed species, Carter continued. The Velkari want to speak with you. The Velkari were an ancient race that had been enslaved by the Kethmoran for over 5,000 years. They were among the first species. The Empire had conquered and few of them remained alive. Amy accepted the transmission. An elderly Velkari appeared on her screen. His face was scarred and weathered, but his eyes held wisdom that came from centuries of suffering. Humans, the Velkari elder said slowly, you have freed us all from the greatest evil our galaxy has ever known. For this we thank you. But we must also ask, at what cost to your souls? Amy had no answer. How do you explain that saving the galaxy required destroying 17 star systems? How do you justify genocide, even against those who would have committed genocide against you? We did what we had to do, Amy finally replied. We're not proud of it. The Velkari elder nodded sadly. That is what gives us hope. A species that feels guilt for its victories may yet find wisdom. Across the galaxy, other freed species were emerging from the ruins of the Kethmoran Empire. Some cheered humanity as liberators. Others feared that humans had simply become the new galactic threat. Most were simply confused, trying to understand how to live without masters after thousands of years of slavery. Kate Miller, now the head of human technology development, was working on something different from weapons. In her laboratory on the rebuilt Mars station, she was designing ships for exploration and aid, not conquest. We need to show the galaxy that we're not the Kethmoran, Kate told her engineering teams. We're not going to rule through fear. The Bu, first of Kate's new ships, were humanitarian vessels, designed to carry food, medical supplies, and construction equipment to worlds damaged by the war. They carried no weapons, only tools for healing and building. Dr. Paul Rogers had disappeared after the Nova bombs were launched. Some said he had gone mad from guilt over his creations. Others believed he was working on ways to undo the damage his weapons had caused. Amy hoped he would find peace, but she understood why he couldn't face what his science had made possible. 6 months after the war ended, Amy made a decision that would define humanity's future. She gathered representatives from every human colony and every freed species for a meeting on neutral ground. We need to talk about what comes next, Amy told the assembled delegates. The Kethmoran are gone, but their empire left a huge empty space in the galaxy. We need to decide how to fill that space. The freed species had many concerns. The Zephyrians, who had been enslaved for 2,000 years, worried that humans would demand tribute like their former masters. The Crystalline Collective feared that human expansion would threaten their homeworlds. Amy stood before them all and made a promise that would echo through galactic history. "Humanity will never become what the Keth-Moran were," she declared. "We will not demand that other species serve us. We will not force anyone to kneel. We learned what we're capable of during this war, and we never want to become that again." The Human Colonial Authority was established with a simple charter: defend human space, help those in need, and never allow another galactic empire to rise. The military doctrine was built around 3 principles that became known as the Morrison codes, named after the captain who had sacrificed everything for Earth. Never kneel. Never forget. Never again. Never kneel meant that humanity would never surrender their freedom to anyone, no matter the cost. Never forget meant they would remember the price of their victory and the billions who died for their freedom. Never again meant they would prevent any other species from facing the choice between slavery and extinction. Commander Lisa Carter was given command of the first exploration vessel built after the war. The ship was called the Remembrance, and its mission was to find species that needed help and offer assistance without demanding anything in return. "This is Captain Carter of the human vessel Remembrance," Lisa transmitted as her ship approached a recently freed world. "We're here to offer aid, not to conquer. We stand with you as equals, not as masters." The response came slowly, fearfully. The freed aliens had lived under the Keth-Moran for so long that they couldn't imagine a powerful species that didn't want to rule them. You want nothing from us?" the alien representative asked. "Only friendship, if you'll offer it," Lisa replied. "We've learned that the galaxy is big enough for all of us." Kate Miller's aid ships spread across the galaxy, carrying food to hungry worlds and medicine to plague-stricken planets. Human engineers worked alongside alien scientists to rebuild what the war had destroyed. Slowly, very slowly, trust began to grow. But the scars remained. Empty star systems where the Nova bombs had struck served as monuments to the war's terrible cost. The Keth-Moran species was extinct, wiped out along with several other races that had lived in the destroyed systems. Amy Foster, now called the first speaker of the Human Colonial Authority, kept a picture on her desk of Captain Morrison and his crew. She looked at it every day to remember what their sacrifice had achieved and what it had cost. Years passed. The galaxy slowly healed from 10,000 years of Keth-Moran rule. New alliances formed between species that had never been allowed to communicate under the Empire. Trade and knowledge flowed freely for the first time in galactic history. Humanity kept their word. They defended their own space fiercely, but they never demanded that other species submit to them. When conflicts arose between freed species, humans offered to mediate, not to conquer. When natural disasters struck alien worlds, human aid ships arrived without being asked. The galaxy learned that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their weapons or their technology. It was their absolute refusal to surrender their freedom or force others to surrender theirs. They had told the Keth-Moran that humans kneel to no one, and they had proven it by turning worlds to ash. Now they had to prove something harder, that they could build a better galaxy from those ashes. In the end, the war's most important lesson wasn't about the power to destroy stars. It was about the responsibility that came with such power, and the courage to use it only when all other choices had been taken away. The galaxy had learned what happened when someone told humanity to kneel. They hoped they would never have to learn it again.